What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Financially Free Era podcast. This is not Megan McGuire. We've got Scotty McDonald here today. And I am joined by our lovely regular host, Megan, to talk about disasters.
Lovely
Yes.
intro. Thank you, Scotty. I
Very
I
welcome.
think you got an A plus. That was great. Well,
That's good.
thank you for joining me as well. So Scotty is one of our financial planners on the team. You work with a collection of different professions, so attorneys, nurses, NPs, CRNAs. You
Yep.
you really
Yep.
work with a lot, physicians as well. Your brother's a
Physicians a
physician,
lot.
and yeah, you bring. I think
All the people.
yeah, Scotty brings a lot of the fun energy to these finance meetings. And who better to bring on a podcast topic about financial disasters, which is a really depressing, sad, scary topic?
It is a sad, scary topic. Yeah.
Yes. And I thought you would be a great person to chat with about this. And we're also on two total opposite sides of the country. You're in
Yeah.
California, I'm in Georgia. So we're both touching different coastlines and we have
Yeah.
different kinds of natural disasters that we deal with.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover all the ones that were, all the ones that could come into play and talk
All of your
about some
favorites,
stats.
the greatest hits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's see if I've been in. So I've been in earthquakes, wildfires, tornadoes, but I've never been in a hurricane.
Mm.
Um, oh, we do have typhoons here every once in a while.
Gosh, that's
I'm not
different.
sorry, not
Yeah.
typhoons, tsunamis. We've had
Tsunamis.
tsunamis, which is yeah,
And
pretty.
where
And
are you at for people?
I'm for just for reference for folks, I'm in Northern California in Santa Cruz, California.
Hmm.
So my most recent disaster that was like a large scale thing for us here was in 2020, the CZU fire,
Hmm.
which
Oh
my
yeah.
house was actually evacuated during that time. The sky
Hmm.
turned pink. It was terrifying.
Hmm.
And I had lots of friends that actually lost homes in that fire. So
Mm.
wildfires are kind of like the most like fast moving, scary type of natural disaster that we face here in California. Um,
Hmm.
Earthquakes can be scary, although most native Californians are like, 4.6, no big deal.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
they occur.
Yeah.
They occur.
And there's a lot of so there's some stats we're going to walk through, but why are we talking about natural disasters on a financial podcast? Well, they do, of course, like they can have big, significant negative impacts to property, personal property, like homes, cars, things like that. But and that all kind of trickles down into financial. And so, how can we better protect ourselves against things we can't control? Because we can't control natural disasters, but how can we better protect ourselves against those things, insulate ourselves financially, personally, to kind of weather that storm? So some big stuff that like lately has been going on in 2025, interestingly. So East Coast, we've seen a lot of flooding. So like the Durham, Raleigh Durham area most recently had some flooding. Travis Hornsby, our majority partner and owner of Student Loan Planner, like his basement literally was flooded. They had a big sewer backup from all the rain that dumped down recently. And Asheville was another like really horrible flooding situation here in the East Coast, which was very odd. Like lots of little towns were along that river
Ruined.
and
Yeah.
completely
Ruined.
like
Yeah.
took them miles and miles down the road.
Yeah. Like
And
have to
so,
redraw maps for the Asheville
yes,
flooding that are now like topographic maps have changed. That flooding was so severe.
correct.
Yeah.
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 And that also, I mean, flooding kind of going along the same lines, like recently also the flooding in Texas. That was pretty
Super
wild.
sad.
I know that was all over a lot of people's like social media and there's about so tornadoes and flooding have been really crazy in the Midwest. So East Coast, I think we've had a lot of flooding, a lot of rain, a lot of heat, I would say, and we're coming up on hurricane season. Haven't gotten there yet, but they are projecting that East Coast is going to see some gnarly hurricanes, which affects like Florida, some of the coastline of going up to as far as like New York,
Yeah.
Connecticut, all that.
Yeah.
But Midwest, we've been seeing a lot of tornado outbreaks, and that's leading to a lot of power outages, a lot of just unfortunately fatalities and flooding as well. So the recent flooding in Texas has been pretty scary and sad to watch, also with some fatalities included.
Yeah. A lot of fatalities in Texas. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
then we get to the West Coast. And
oh
that's,
boy.
you've seen a lot in the West Coast so far this year.
Yeah. Oh God, even in so January, the biggest one for us this year were the fires in Los Angeles,
Hmm.
which usually wildfire season is, in the summer, and January is typically one of the wetter months of the year. But there was like a sort of perfect storm of really dry winter and really strong winds, and
Hmm.
yeah, devastating, devastating.
Yeah, I think it was, they counted about 39,000 fires burning, nearly 2.88 million acres, which destroyed about 18,000 structures and had about 30 fatalities. So huge, hugely like widespread.
Yeah,
And so it's crazy how like your part of the country is experiencing like droughts and fire. Our part and like Midwest is dealing with too much water, and it's like,
yeah,
where's the
yeah.
balance here?
Where's the
So,
balance? Yeah. All the things. So yeah, I think that we just wanted to like give a bit of an outline of, like there's sort of different levels of responsibility. There's like responsibility to ourselves and to our neighbors, and then our
hmm.
state and federal responses. Like we can't control a lot of that stuff, just like we can't control the weather. But what can we control? We talk
Hmm.
a lot about in financial planning, like to control the things that we can control.
Hmm.
And a plan for this sort of stuff. Is not that hard to do in a lot of
Hmm.
circumstances. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's
So we're
financially speaking too, like these disasters, these natural disasters, a lot of folks, a lot of clients have been recognizing that their insurance premiums are going up as well. And there's a big, this is a
for
big part
sure.
of that. We've had a record-breaking 126 billion in disaster-related losses by June 2025 so far this year. So that's over triple the century average of 41 billion for this period. That's according to Barron's.com. And that a lot of that was related to some tornado damage, so 44 billion in tornado damage. That was the third highest on record. So, man, so that does mean like our pockets are going to be hurting when it comes to insurance because the cost of insurance is just getting like for them to insure and to protect property, it is getting more expensive for them to do so. So, of course, like the price of what we have to pay is going up. So let's jump into it though. How can we really start to kind of prepare ourselves? I think step one is, and I think you said this best, Scotty, when we were talking about this podcast topic earlier. You said really the first line of defense against natural disaster is yourself, like what you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
And part of that is building an emergency fund or emergency reserve. And what do you typically tell clients for like a range?
Yeah. For the sort of typical range I want to see for folks is like between 3 to 6 months of essential expenses.
Hmm.
Essential expenses. If you're a single income household or in volatile industries, really want you to be closer to that 6 months number. If you're, a nurse and a fireman, maybe you're closer to that like 3 month kind of number. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it also depends on like what are the things that could go wrong in your life and world.
Hmm.
If you have a long commute, then you're going to have a little more in reserve. So if your car breaks down, you can fix it like that. Or if
Hmm.
you have a larger house that has lots of things like trees that could fall on you, well, maybe you should have a little bit larger reserve than someone that lives in a condo on a second floor condo or something like that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So 3 to 6 months is a great like parameter. Another thing that you could think about is looking at your insurance deductibles. So like your property insurance deductible, how much do you have to come out of pocket before the insurance company comes in and starts paying? So for example, like that same example with trees, if you had a tree or a couple trees come through your roof, how much do you have to pay before insurance is going to come in and help fix the rest of your house? And if you have a really high deductible, like it's, a lot higher to make the premiums lower, because that's how that relationship works. If you have a really high deductible, that means you would pay a lot more before the insurance comes in to help. But what that does for your insurance premium is it lowers it because it lowers the amount of risk that the insurance company has. They're not going to have to come out so much because you've got a higher amount that you're coming in to pay before they come in to help. So, good and bad, right? Like, it'd be nice to have lower insurance premiums, but if we don't have that high deductible amount in our emergency savings, that's going to really stink if we have to come in and use it, or if we're going to have
Yeah.
to come in and implement it because you're going to have to pay that on a credit card or some way before, someone could come and patch your roof and get the tree out of the living room and all that.
Right.
So,
And likely that's what's going to happen anyway. Like you're not going to wait around for an insurance company to send you a settlement when you've got a tree in your roof, you know.
mhm.
So you're going to be out of pocket those expenses and then potentially getting reimbursed at least a percentage of them
Mhm.
if and when the insurance company comes through, you know.
Yep. You'd
Um,
also want to and we'll talk about insurance actually. So I'll come back and we'll talk about insurance a lot after this. But yeah, keeping that savings liquid is really important. So in savings, high yield savings account, an FDIC insured account. This is not money that you'd want locked up in real estate. Like don't think about your home equity as like your emergency fund because you can't really go in and get it easily. Like, yes, you could do a HELOC. Yes, you could do a home loan, but we're talking about taking debt against like our equity, not just having the cash ready to go. So we want that savings there. And then if it's in the stock market or if it's in a brokerage account, like a non-retirement investment account, we're kind of riding the waves of what happens in the market. And there might be a not ideal time to take money out, right? If our funds, if the market as a whole is taking a downturn, that's probably the worst time to be taking money out and you wouldn't want to put yourself in that position. So having that money in cash, as boring as it is, as much as we talk about it and stress about it, just do it. Just do it.
boring is good. Boring is good. Yeah. I always tell people that your emergency fund is not an investment. It
Hmm.
is an insurance. It is an insurance policy. It's
Yeah.
there for a completely different purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Risk
helping your
mitigation.
future self. Yeah. When you're looking at that tree in your front room and you're like, man, how did this happen? Why me? You'll think about that emergency savings and be like, man, I do love me. Thank goodness for me.
Uh,
So,
cool.
and it's
So
probably a good idea to have a little cash also, like physical cash. I think you feel pretty strongly about that too, right? Just having like cash on hand.
all my monies
You've got some cash in the video,
off
yeah.
on my desk. Yeah. Yeah, having cash on hand is good for lots of reasons. For, if utilities are down and you can't get to an ATM, if you have to, you know, you know, buy something on used or something to get you through from a Facebook marketplace or Craigslist or something just to like buy something in a pinch, like it's
Hmm.
good to have some cash on hand,
Yeah.
maybe you
Or
don't have
banks.
like many or banks are closed,
Yeah.
whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. So we're not talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars stuffed under your mattress, please don't do that, but
Yeah.
couple hundred to a couple thousand bucks cash on hand in your house in a safe place, it's
Hmm.
probably a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. And banks can be emptied too. Like that sounds crazy, but it can happen. We've seen it happen where there's some kind of situation, there's panic, there's either panic in the market or panic in the area that you're in because of a disaster, and the bank has run out of money. And that doesn't mean that, again, you're not protected because you have that FDIC insurance. So your money's not gone. It just means the bank doesn't have enough there to give you that's on their balance sheet. So having cash on hand could be helpful in situations like that so you don't have to panic and be in a really tough spot if we really need cash. Yeah. So I think that's first.
Cash rules everything around me.
Yeah. First and foremost. So I think those are the things that we could do to protect ourselves. Next, so ourselves, that's like first line of defense, emergency savings, having money for the deductible, having cash on hand just in case. Next up is insurance. That is the purpose of insurance. The purpose of insurance is for them to come in and make you whole, not make you better off than you were, but make you whole and reimburse you for, where your state was at the time of the loss, essentially. And a lot of people don't realize that they're underinsured until it is too late, until they find out because they're trying to get coverage or get that refund or that reimbursement for what's going on. And this happens a lot because of cost. And so everybody knows those commercials, like the car insurance commercials, like, so like kind of taglines like choose your own rate or build your own policy or control your cost, control your coverage, find your price, find your peace of mind. Like that all sounds great, but if you just want the lowest cost possible, and that's really what you're gunning for, you are losing some of the benefits of the insurance or some of the coverages that a more full policy would have, and you may not realize it because we're really just and a lot of times people don't revisit their policies. So you might have looked at
Right.
a policy back in college or like in residency or in training, and life has changed. Like you've got kids now, you've got a bigger house, like you need to be looking at these policies annually to make sure that it's still covering what it needs to be covering. And the insurance company can be there to answer questions and help you understand how your policy works, what it covers. But yeah, I think that's something that we find a lot is like people are underinsured, unfortunately.
Totally. Yeah. Like I will do cash flow calls with folks and say, like, oh, I've got renter's insurance. Oh, it's $17 a month. I was like, oh, when did you get that policy? They're like, I don't know, when I was in, grad school or something.
Yeah.
And, if you have a $17 a month renter's policy, it probably doesn't have a very high limit for personal property. It probably doesn't
Hmm.
have loss of use coverage. A couple of the things that like I personally can tell you is very, very handy to have. Like
Hmm.
renter's insurance has saved my butt more than any other type of insurance throughout my life.
Really?
Yeah.
What are some examples, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh my God. So let's just say hypothetically that the nice family from Indiana that lives upstairs from you clogged up the toilets. And you come home from work, just hypothetically, and there's an inch and a half of raw sewage that is backed up
Oh
into your
God.
entire apartment, up out of the toilet, up out of the tub, and there is a lake of sewage. And let's just say hypothetically that they have to call a crime scene cleanup company to come in and cut away 18 inches off of the top from your drywall to fix
To
all
the
of the raw
floor.
sewage that had destroyed the house. You know,
Wow.
um, renter's insurance paid for my Birkenstocks. It paid for my rug. It paid for me to stay someplace else while I wasn't able to stay in my house for the 6 weeks that they were doing these renovations.
Yeah.
So it's super, yeah, super important. Um,
Hmm.
and it's before the disaster that you have to get all that stuff lined up, right?
Yeah. You
So
can't fix
another
it
person,
afterwards. It's
you
like,
can't fix it
well,
afterwards. You can't fix it during. So, for instance, while I was being evacuated for the CZU fires, I'm like, let's give it a shot. Probably not going to happen, but let's give it a shot. And I call my insurance company to try and increase the coverages
yeah,
on my house. Um, and they're like, sir, your home is in an active evacuation zone
claim.
for a wildfire. We
Oh,
can't make any changes to your policy right now,
yeah.
right? So it's
Hmm.
one of these things that you should, if you're a client of SLP Wealth, we're going to be looking at occasionally, to review insurance coverages to make sure that you're kind of in the right sized policy and that
Hmm.
it has those different components of your policy, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have some kind of like horror story, like something not with sewage, but in my apartment complex that I lived in before we moved into our home, somebody had caught something on fire in like the top floor of the apartment complex. And nowadays they do build so it kind of minimizes the impact of
yeah,
the like the water sprinklers going off. So only in that line of apartments. So from like the fifth floor down to the first, those sprinklers went off. And they have firewalls in between the other apartments.
right.
So like the ones next to them didn't get impacted. But my client, who lived in my same building, just surprisingly, she was on the bottom floor. And so all the water, the sprinklers were going off in her own unit, but all the water that was going off upstairs was coming down to hers too. So similar, like hers was completely flooded. And it's not like clean water that comes out of those like sprinkler systems. It's like old, rusty, dirty water. So all of her furniture was destroyed, her bedding, like, so she had a good policy. But yeah, I mean, sometimes when it comes to renter's insurance, like you just get what's required by the rental office and you call it a day. But what you want to have is also protection for your own personal property. Like it's one thing
Right.
to have insurance in case you mess up, like you're the person who caught the apartment on fire and you're not liable financially. Like the insurance company could come in and pay for those damages. That's helpful, right? But if you're also kind of a victim of this and your property was destroyed, you're not going to want to refurnish your whole apartment on your own dime or your whole
Right.
closet or all of your bath products and everything. Like just think about how expensive that can be.
Totally expensive. Yep.
Yeah. So that's
Very
rent,
expensive.
home insurance, same thing. You got to make sure you've got the right kind of coverage. You need dwelling coverage that matches the full cost to rebuild your house, not just the home market value, because building costs are different than the home value of your house,
Totally.
right? And
Totally.
so you want to make sure that that's covered because if your whole house burns down, knock on wood that none of this happens to anybody, right? But things like this happen. You want to make sure you could build the house back to what it was, not a fraction of what it was because the building costs were more than like the whole market value.
Right.
So, personal property limits, we're talking about personal property too. So if you've upgraded furniture, electronics, you've got a lot of electronic equipment, or you have expensive equipment like a Peloton or camera gear, lots of home
Mhm.
office tech, like you'd want to probably have that covered as well. And especially like collector's items, if you have like art or collector's items, that might be something
Right.
to consider getting protected as well. So some of these things can be really helpful to, I think step one here is just know what you have. And
Yep.
if you're okay with the risk of something happening and you not having that type of coverage, fine. That's fine. That's your risk to take on. But if you're not, if that makes you really uncomfortable and makes you not sleep well at night, like go get that policy changed and updated. And yes,
Okay.
maybe it's more expensive, but it could, it comes with the cost of like helping you. It's more expensive because it's going to help you replace a lot more in the future if you have to.
Yeah. And renters insurances are generally not terribly, terribly expensive. They're not
Yeah.
terribly expensive. So
Hmm.
and all of my clients I've ever had, I don't think I've ever seen a renter's insurance policy specifically more than $100.
Yeah. They're pretty
I can't think of a
reasonable.
single I can't think of a single instances where it's ever been more than $100. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, Travis's brother actually, he was in Atlanta. Somebody did they were either doing fireworks or grilling on the roof of the apartment complex when they shouldn't have been. Caught the whole apartment complex on fire and it burned the entire thing down, including Travis's brother's apartment and all his stuff. So he had insurance and it helped him get to the next step. But
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. Everybody has these stories. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like it's not if, it's when. So
Yep. So another thing when it comes to insurance, let's talk about spot and fill, spotting and filling those insurance gaps. So standard homeowners insurance policies do not cover flood, earthquake, or wildfire events, especially in high risk zones. So I know in California, like
yeah.
it's a whole other price tag to have like homeowners insurance, but you also have to have the earthquake and then the fire insurance, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Homeowners insurance does not necessarily cover. Yeah, it's a special rider to have earthquake insurance. And in many areas that consider high risk, there's like only the California FAIR plan, which is like the state-backed insurance plan, is like the insurer of last resort, which most people in my area, or that's it. That's all they can get.
Mm,
So,
hmm.
yeah. So it's
Yep. So,
don't
and
assume anything about your insurance policy.
yes, don't assume
Yeah.
it covers everything because it may
Yeah.
not. And there was something else I was reading in the CFP curriculum about like something that was covered and where I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then something that wasn't covered, which I was like, when does that ever happen? But it was like electrical currents or something. Yeah, it was like in the CFP curriculum when I was reading through it back in the day, studying for it. It was like electrical surges due to like
Oh,
outdated wiring or just normal wear and tear or negligence and lack of maintenance, like faulty installation or workmanship. Like, let's say you had a huge surge and your entire home is now no longer able to, like, nothing is going to work electronically or it's caught something on fire. That's something that's not covered with your homeowner's insurance
no
policy,
more
which that's such
insurance.
a random, like, circumstance. But you would think that, like, any kind of damage that happens to your home that wasn't malicious, it wasn't negligence, it wasn't like you doing something intentionally, like you would think, like you just kind of think and assume, oh, that should be covered, right? When a lot of like random things are not. So, like you said, you'd want to know what is
Yeah.
not covered
Yeah.
and then find some like gap coverage to protect yourself against those things.
Right.
Umbrella policies could be a way to get some additional liability protection. This is something that we do recommend to a lot of our clients, high income, high risk professions, especially So, especially for professions that have assets that they need to protect. So, umbrella basically stacks on top of your existing coverages. So, it stacks on top of your auto insurance, your homeowner's insurance. And let's say you are liable, like, you are tired one morning, you hit another car, someone dies in that accident, you are held liable, you are sued. They can come after you for a lot of money. Like, these personal injury attorneys and like how law can work. I mean, you could be liable for a lot of money. And if your auto insurance, you're hitting your cap on what the auto insurance will pay, and they can't really go to homeowners insurance, or they do and they exhaust that as well, then above and beyond that, you're liable. So umbrella insurance comes in and protects like above and beyond your insurance limits. There are minimum requirements that you have to have on the auto and the homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance to be able to have an umbrella policy. But I used to work in settlement planning back in the day. That's what I did temporarily between like my first financial planning job and when I started my own practice. In settlement planning, like once it got to umbrella coverage, that was going to be a big payout. It was going to be a big payout, and it was coordination between like all carriers of insurance. It was the auto insurance, it was the homeowners insurance, the umbrella insurance. All of those carriers were coordinating on who was going to pay what, and it's not a fun process to go through because no one wants to pay, right? But you might be liable. You might have to pay by court order.
Right. Right. So yeah, not necessarily like unless you were the cause of a natural disaster. I guess that's not a natural disaster,
True.
though.
Yeah. I
Um,
kind of got
but
off topic
yeah,
there.
a good to have, and not something you'd want to be worrying about during an actual natural disaster. So
Yes.
this will file the umbrella insurance in the you want the umbrella before the rainy day, you know.
Yes.
Uh,
Wasn't there,
uh,
so with that said, Scotty, wasn't there someone or wasn't somebody accused of setting a fire in somewhere in California that made it more impactful or like harder to put out or something like that? Like, am I crazy for thinking, and maybe that was fake
um,
news, but
No, yeah, no, I'm trying to think of what you're referring to specifically. I mean, like the big fires recently, like the famous ones in California. I don't know if they've kind of pinned down the cause of the most recent LA fires. Um, the Santa Cruz fire that I've been talking about, CZU fire, was a lightning strike of all thing, which is pretty rare
mm,
actually in Santa Cruz, California.
mm-hmm.
PG&E is the utility company in Northern California and is constantly like being blamed for some fires, like the Paradise Fire in like 2018, that sort of totally destroyed this town outside of Chico
Mm.
called Paradise. Um, that one was a PG&E sort of related fire from faulty equipment. And then the other one that comes to mind was there was a gender reveal party that
Oh
went
gosh.
awry in Southern California, and they shot off these flares that were like blue or pink or something, and it
Yeah.
caused a fire.
Oh
So those
no.
folks were not too popular after that. But yeah,
Yikes. I
yeah,
bet you
means
they were
cause.
held liable to some extent.
They absolutely were. Yeah. Or
Geesh.
if your campfire, if you're having a fire um, in an area of California that has a campfire ban, and your campfire
Mm-hmm.
gets out of control, you're liable,
Mm-hmm.
criminally and civilly liable. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yikes.
yep,
So
scary stuff.
yeah, it
Um,
could accelerate or incinerate like make a natural disaster situation worse. Like if we're already in a dry environment, like you don't want to be
totally.
liable for causing that
No,
to get worse. Ugh.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, even to the extent of like, if you're out trying to clear brush around your house and you're doing it on a, unsafe like burn day, and
mhm.
your lawnmower hits a rock or something in your
Spark.
yard and creates a sparks and starts a fire, you're
Oh
liable for that.
gosh.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like, yeah.
that's pretty
Defensible
crazy.
space, very important. Defensible
Not
space.
totally related, but kind of a funny story. We had a riding lawnmower growing up because we had a lot of property where we lived, and my dad ran over a golf ball with the riding lawnmower, and it went straight through our front door glass. Just a funny story that made me think about it, like
Yeah.
lawnmowers hitting stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, they can get launched from a from a lawnmower. Really caused
Totally.
some damage. We had to replace the
Yeah.
whole door. Um, okay, but anyways,
Kind
I
of weird.
know so you actually had some good suggestions too when it came to like inventorying your stuff. Getting
Yeah.
a record of what do you own. Tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So this is a great suggestion that people made to us when we were um, like when the CTU fire was happening, I was actually out of town. And so my folks actually went to my house and just like walked room to room with
Oh,
their
wow.
iPhone and
Yeah.
made a video of just like the contents of the rooms, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
So
smart. That was
you
very
might
nice of
not
them.
be able and like opening drawers and
Mm-hmm.
opening closets and just like giving some sort of record of what was there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, probably not something that you'd want to do as a wildfire like is approaching your house. Like
Right.
please just go.
Do it
Um,
beforehand.
but
Do it.
if you know if you could think to do it beforehand, it's a really good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there are apps that will help with that sort of thing, like inventory apps.
Yeah.
Moving Box is one that uses AI to do it. A client of ours is working on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other one you mentioned was Sortly, which I don't have specific
Mm-hmm.
um,
There are a couple, and it
experience
could
with.
kind of
Yeah.
guide you on what to take pictures of because when you're trying to get property like inside your home replaced, like they're going to ask, well, when did you buy it? What
Do you have
condition was it
receipts?
in? Do you have receipts? Like, and
Right.
so this is a way that you could say, like, hey, here's video evidence that I did have this couch, I did have this TV in that room, I did have, this equipment in my
Yeah.
office. Like, it's definitely something that could be
Yeah.
helpful.
Oh, sure, your Picasso was damaged
Yeah,
in the wildfire.
right.
Oh, sure, your Fabergé eggs, your Birkin bags were all damaged suddenly. Yeah. If you have all that stuff, then sure, but yeah, they're gonna
Hmm.
push back on it. They're definitely gonna
Yeah.
push back on it. Yeah.
For sure. And it can help with other things too, like estate planning, divorce,
Yeah.
just being more organized as a whole. So I think it's a very good idea to do. And then kind of along the lines of like using technology to help with inventory, like use technology to help automate a lot of your money management as well. So if, auto deposit, auto bill, auto pay, we talk about that a lot to kind of just take that mental load off of you to have your bills get paid automatically, have your savings happen automatically so you're not having to think about it. We really love Monarch Money. We talk about that a lot for budgeting, but there's also like YNAB, YNAB. You need a budget to keep on top of spending to reduce, the risk of late payments or damaging like your credit score, financial, other financial areas. But and you can also use some of these digital money management tools to keep records of key documents. So insurance policies, estate documents, bank information, which this reminds me, I do have. So my mom did her estate planning recently. I have a physical copy. The attorney's office should also retain a copy. My mom has a copy, but it does make me think like, I should probably digitize that paper copy that I have because that's the only copy
Totally.
I have.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Digitized copy is super important, but also having like a fireproof box, a fireproof
Yeah.
safe is a really, really good idea. A
Mm-hmm.
really good idea that have like your key documents in it, your passport, your,
Social security card.
social security cards, children's birth certificates,
Mm-hmm.
insurance documents, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
In
your
a
will.
fireproof box, wills and things. Yeah.
Yep. My neighbor told me the other day, I don't know if this is true, but you can only replace your social security card twice. So if you
Oh,
lose
interesting.
it, you can get it issued again. But if you lose it again after that, you're donezo. So I don't know
You
exactly,
don't exist.
I
You don't
guess.
exist any longer. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So you
Um,
definitely want to keep that. And she was telling us this because she is the record keeper for her family. She was holding on to her brother's social security card. And she was just telling us about how, like, make sure you're responsible, make sure your kids grow up to be responsible.
You might
I don't
lose
know.
everyone because you might be that person. You
Yeah,
might
you
be
might
that
be the one
person
who's like
who's
storing all
like
this stuff.
tasked with the archiving of your family's key documents. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Even just something as simple as like taking a quick snapshot on your phone and putting
Hmm.
things that are important in a Google Drive folder or something in the cloud,
Yeah.
taking a photo of your driver's license, taking a photo of your passport, like that kind of thing to have just a digital quick copy of some of that stuff can be really, really handy sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah. And make sure whoever needs access to things has access. Does your partner know about joint funds that you have, where that fire safe is. Do they know what the code is? Like, you want to have kind of contingency plans too for the stuff that you're protecting. Like, if you're not here, or you're not like, if we're not, what is the word I'm looking for?
If you're not the one that's at the house when it's on fire.
Yeah, if you're not the one who's at the house when it's on, exactly. Like, make sure somebody
Yeah.
else knows about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think that does a good job of kind of talking through ways to protect yourself, ways to be proactive against things that we can't control, like disasters, like financial, environmental disasters that we could try to minimize the impacts on, or at least have protections in place for. So, kind of a recap, I would say having, a financial disaster plan really does give you some peace of mind. Literally, I'm thinking about like the estate planning documents now. I'm like, I got to do that this weekend. And protects your family, your lifestyle, your long-term goals. And I would say, this would be a time, it's mid-year. There's not, summer is kind of a fun, there's not a ton going on. Fall is sometimes when like people come to the table and they want to get serious again about their financial goals before the end of the year. So now might be a great time to be like scheduling those insurance review calls with your auto insurance, your homeowner's insurance, maybe looking into an umbrella policy. Check to see if your emergency savings account is kind of lined up with what your deductibles are on those insurance coverages. Also look at your health insurance deductible. So health insurance, auto, home, or renters, like look at those deductibles, and that should also give you kind of some guidance on how much you should have in your emergency savings. Do that home inventory. So if you did some spring cleaning or summer cleaning, you just cleaned out the house, perfect. Great time to walk around the house with a video and record what you've got, what furniture's in your home, what kind of items or personal property do you have, and then talk with your advisor.
The garage. Yeah.
Yeah, hit the garage, make sure you get everything. Talk with your advisor about gaps or concerns you have in your plan, and your advisor can point you in the right direction for where to go, what to think about, things like that. Anything we missed? Any last closing words?
Failure to plan is a plan to fail.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
So,
yeah.
Just remember, it's like you are your best first line of defense. So
Mm-hmm.
personal savings, personal safety, all of that stuff is personal first.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you're taking care of yourself, so that if at very least you're not a burden on EMS services, and can help your neighbors and your friends and people if you're able to do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but always put your mask on first, and then help the person next to you.
Yes.
So hopefully we're helping people be in a position to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well, thank you, Scotty, for joining me on this episode today. And
Always a
I
pleasure.
I hope everybody has a lovely weekend. Maybe think about some proactive ways you could take a look at your situation, your disaster plan, get some things put into place, and enjoy the last couple weeks of summer as we roll into the fall here. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Are you ready to unlock financial freedom faster with SLP Wealth? Get high-quality, affordable student loan-aware financial planning and get the best deal for it anywhere that you're going to find working with your own dedicated SLP Wealth financial planner that is able to give you the best integrated advice across financial planning, investments, and tax, along with all the student loan hacks that you know you need and that you know impact all other areas of your financial planning. The deal you're going to find here is special just for podcast listeners. If you go to promo.slpwealth.com, you can sign up with a great discount off your first month. That's promo.slpwealth.com.